Yeah.
Dae Kwang, why is there good and bad on this earth?
Why?
Yeah. How did that start? This.
I don't know why. And I don't have any technique to answer your question. Somebody asked the Buddha, where does, Buddhism is about suffering, which he was talking about, and taking away suffering, which he's also talking about. Then one time a monk asked the Buddha, where does suffering come from? He didn't say anything. He was silent. Didn't have a clever explanation or even an unclever explanation. Where does the suffering come from? He wouldn't answer. But we do experience suffering, right? Experience it as on a very gut level as a bad feeling. Like when he goes to hug the guy in the subway, the guy has a really bad feeling. That's why he appears aggressive. So it's about this gut feeling. Suffering doesn't feel good. That's why you don't like it. And you want something else, but you don't know how to get the other thing. Because usually the techniques that we use to get away from suffering are just creating more suffering for ourselves. So that's what the Buddha said. But it isn't for the Buddha or even for me to tell you about that. It's for you to experience it yourself. So if Zen or Buddhism has a technique, it's to kind of like push you so that you have some kind of experience rather than hiding in your own little special cave somewhere. Usually the cave's made out of thought. To take that away so that you can experience for yourself where this suffering comes from and how to escape from it, how to let go of it, actually, so that you can help other people that have the same problem. The Buddha doesn't have any special techniques. He talked a lot, actually. Does a very simple kind of, teaches a very simple kind of meditation technique, which is so simple, it's not even a technique. But it's all about, in Buddhism it's very interesting because it's about having some kind of experience. We were talking about that earlier. About having some kind of experience rather than getting a new understanding of things. From a Buddhist point of view, the problem isn't your understanding. It's not that you didn't read Freud and Heidegger and people like that, and then you could come up with a better explanation for why things are so screwed up, which obviously they are. It's about having some kind of experience about what you truly are, which is love and compassion. So it's, in that sense, it's very simple. It's more than simple. In Zen we say, it's stupid. My teacher was always saying you have to become more stupid because I also went to college. So he was always, hitting me in the head. You have to become more stupid, which just means you need to experience what you truly are inside, not somebody's idea, whether it's some great philosopher's idea, some religious leader's idea. Like even the Buddha himself said, don't believe what I say. Find out for yourself. That's why we started this talk. Actually, the most important part of this talk already went by. It was that 3 minutes at the beginning. Canute. Okay? Yes?
Where does joy come from?
What?
Where does joy come from?
Where does joy come from? Yeah. So we have many words for a good feeling, right? Yeah. Gemütlichkeit, is that what you call it? Yeah, you have many words about that. Joy, happiness, satisfaction, friendship, things are working out. I feel good. And we also have, they're opposites, right? You have the opposites, right? I feel crappy. This isn't working out. This is bullshit. You have many words for the other thing, too. So where does that come from? So it's the same problem. It has some kind of origin in something. But we definitely experience it, right? You experience bad feeling. You experience happiness. Right? So Buddhism has a very interesting idea about this. It has two different levels of happiness. So there's the kind of happiness that you experience that comes and goes. Everybody experiences happiness coming and going, right? Everybody does it. It's a common experience. So we call that like small happiness. You might say small joy. So you could look at like maybe during the rain today. So I was out walking. I felt great. Wow, this is wonderful. So that's like the joy of walking in the rain. Right? And then it stopped, and then I went inside. So that particular joy was replaced by taking off my shoes and going in the house experience, right? So there's many kinds of that, small happiness. Then Buddhism has this notion of big happiness, or what we call true happiness, which isn't based on circumstances. So usually when you think about joy, you think about circumstances, right? So maybe it's Christmas time. When I think of, if I just had to abstractly talk about the feeling of joy, I would think about the Christmas tree, the tantabum, my parents and gifts, and it's Christmas, and it's wonderful, right? But there's a kind of happiness before that which isn't dependent on circumstances, and that's what Jan Saint-Sumer called true happiness, that comes from finding your true self inside. So many of these feelings are always coming, going, coming, going, coming, going, coming, going. Everybody experiences that. And you want the good ones and you don't want the bad ones. Or if you're a kind of inverted, twisted consciousness, you may want the bad ones and not want the good ones, because you think you don't deserve them or something, whatever. But before that is a kind of what we call true happiness. It isn't based on anything coming and going, and that's returning to your true self. So Buddhism is based on this idea of a true self. So what the Buddha found was he discovered what he truly was, not something that was situational, coming, going, coming, going. So they're always, Buddhist teachings are always pointing at that. So when the Buddha woke up, he woke up to what we really were, not just something that comes and goes. So we experience many things coming and going, including your own body, right? The Buddha experienced, every human being will experience that, right? So either you get old and die, or you get sick and die, or you run into somebody on the subway and they make you die. So that's like death. Every human being experiences that. Most of the time we walk around ignoring it, right? You don't walk around in your life moment to moment always thinking about death, right? So he's thinking about, do I really have it? Can I really kick this guy's ass or not? Is he going to hit me, right? So, but those kind of thoughts are very transitory. They come and they go. But behind that is this vague kind of feeling inside your mind that, yeah, right, I might be young and strong, but soon, it's going to go away. So this leads to what we call a kind of doubt. And this doubt is based on what is a human being really? So the Buddha saw three things that every human being sees. He saw an old person. It's easy to see an old person. If you wait long enough, you'll see one in the mirror in the morning when you go into the bathroom. And surprisingly enough, it happens pretty fast. You know? And then he saw a sick person. We all either see sick people or we are sick ourselves. So you know that kind of comes and goes. Or it may be a chronic illness, so you have it all the time. But slowly over the years, your clock kind of runs down. And then he also saw a dead person. So I don't know about Viennese culture, but when you go to a funeral home and there's a funeral, do you see the dead body laying there? No? You don't usually see that? And you very rarely see dead people on the street, right? If you go to war, though, you might see a lot of them. It can be quite disturbing, right? Because human beings don't like to see that. But the Buddha saw it, and it's possible to see it. Certainly you know about it. You've seen it in movies and stuff. Right? So these three things, seeing an old person, a sick person, and a dead person, he saw it one time, and it really hit him. Like, if this is true, well, what are we here for? Why are we on the earth? So we call this the great question of life and death. Why are you really here? Why? So old age, sickness, and death takes away all those things that make you joyful. So maybe food makes you joyful, but you're going to die, so food isn't going to help you after you're dead, right? Or probably right before you die, you don't care what the food tastes like. I had a friend whose father died in an old folks' home, and he was feeding him some soup. And the father looked at him and said, "The soup is too salty." And then, boom, his dad died. Oh, that's interesting. The soup is too salty, and then, boom, dead. But that gave my friend a really big question, like, is that important, how salty the soup is? I mean, I like soup to be somewhat salty, not too salty and not too little salt. So what these three things, old age, sickness, and death, means is everything that you want, everything you think is going to make you happy will soon go away. So the Buddha saw that. Any human being can see it. It's not special. It's kind of like his doubt about whether his techniques in karate were enough to hold off any attacker. Right? So he has some doubt back behind, like, I don't really know. But there's big doubt back behind that. And that's the doubt that's brought up by old age, sickness, and death. So that's the doubt the Buddha had. But then he didn't take any halfway answers to this question, what is a human being? Right? So are we here for sex? Are we here for food? Are we here for fame? Like he's famous. Are we here for sleep? Or are we here for money? Right? So with respect to these five things, everybody likes to have a good situation, right? Like you like to have good food. Tonight I was telling some people, if you only come to Singapore, you can get some really good Chinese food. Like, Singapore has really good Chinese food. But he said he knew a good Chinese restaurant here in Vienna, so probably there too. And people want good sex, obviously. They spend a lot of time thinking about that. And people want money so that they can buy all the things they do want to make them happy and joyful. And definitely want to get enough sleep. So everybody wants the good situation around those five things. Fame is probably the strongest one. That means social acceptance. So everybody is concerned about social acceptance. Jan, I've been afraid to tell you this over the years, but you know what? You're really stupid. Yeah. So when I say that, even though it isn't true, he's one of the smartest people I know. As soon as I say that, he knows that I'm joking. I know that I'm joking. But when I say it inside, still there's a feeling, right? Still. It's because it's a very strong desire. You want to be liked by people. That's where a good situation comes from. You want your wife to like you. You want your husband to like you, your kids. Everybody wants it. So those 5 desires are the human good situation. So every human being wants a good situation. But the problem is, there's only 2 things that can happen. Number 1, you don't get the good situation. Right? That happens. You don't get the money, you don't get the guy, you don't get the job, you don't get the whatever. If that happens, you suffer right away. Right? You experience suffering when a situation doesn't turn out. Everybody does that. Then the second thing that can happen, on the surface it seems pretty good deal. You get your good situation. You get the money, you get a good husband, you have a nice house. The food at this Chinese restaurant is really good. So you get the good situation, but guess what? Old age, sickness, death. No matter what happens, you can't keep this good situation. That's what old age, sickness, and death means. So everybody wants a good situation. Nobody can keep it, even if they do get it. So then there's this natural kind of suffering. So the Buddha saw that, and he didn't look away. He looked right at it, like, ugh. Like, usually we run away from these kind of ideas. Like right now, you probably don't even want to hear about this, right? So the Buddha decided, he had a very good situation. He was a prince, kind of like Prince Charles maybe, or Prince William, or Prince George. Those 3 princes in England, they all have very good situations. Right? Soon it'll go away. So the Buddha also, he thought, well, I need to find the answer to this question. So we call this question the great question of life and death. So he left his good situation to look for the answer to this question. What are we really? It's called the great question of life and death. What is a human being really? Because obviously it isn't about getting a good situation, because that doesn't work. So what are we really? And here's an interesting thing. When he left home, he didn't move to a library. Right? So most of us, if we have a question, where do we look? I'll look here. Unfortunately, this is one of those questions that Wikipedia doesn't really have a very good answer to. So he went and sat underneath a tree and just looked inside. So one thing we're doing when we were sitting were we sitting 3 minutes there? 3 minutes, probably. Is what you're really doing is you're looking inside. So all he did, very simple, just look inside, look inside, look inside, look inside, look inside. And the other interesting thing is he wouldn't take any halfway answers. So he had to know for himself. Also, he was self-motivated. Nobody's pushing him to do it. His wife isn't saying, hey, get out of here and find the answer to the great question of life and death. Stop hanging around the kitchen, get out and find that. It didn't come from there. It came from deep inside what all of us experience. This question, somewhere inside, in the back room somewhere, this question is there. And all of your more superficial questions actually will fall away in the end. Then he looked inside, looked inside, looked inside, looked inside, then boom, we say he woke up. So he woke up to what he truly was, which was the answer to this question. Interesting. So he found it. Then he said, oh, well, this is amazing. Everybody already has it inside, but they don't know it. They don't know it. Because they don't know they have it, they suffer. And the reason they don't know they have it is because they're very, very attached to their like and dislike idea. Right? And if you just take away your like and dislike idea, then boom, it appears naturally because it's already there. So the Buddha said that every human being has a misconception about what they are. If you just take the misconception away, then boom, and that's called true happiness or true joy, because it's not based on any idea and it's not based on any circumstance. So that's my talk on joy. Ha ha ha. But it's not so much ha ha ha. In fact, human suffering is, it's so grotesque. That's why the Buddha left his situation. Look at it. All you have to do is look around. You see it in your family. You definitely see it on a national level with wars, Iraq. Very interesting. Strange thing is, a lot of it's created by religious ideas. So one interesting thing about Buddhism is that Buddhism isn't based on belief. You probably notice, if you read the news, you see it all the time. Middle Eastern religions tend to be focused on belief, right? They're very concerned about what you believe. In fact, if you don't believe it like us, we might cut your head off. Some people think that. But Buddhism isn't based on belief. In fact, I could care less if you believe in Buddha or not. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You can believe in it or not believe in it. One time, somebody came to my teachers and Master Sung Sung and said, I want to become a Buddhist. We call it taking the 5 precepts. I want to take these 5 precepts and become a Buddhist. And he just started laughing. Then he looked at the guy and said, you can't become a Buddhist. You don't understand your true self. So what he's saying is, there's no way to join up. There's only finding out what you truly are. That's an experience, not an understanding in the conventional sense of understanding. So no matter what it is in your life, you actually have to go do something. So if I explain swimming to you, it's not going to help you if you fall in the Danube over here. You better have done some practicing and actually know how to swim. Because all the theories of swimming are not going to help you once you fall in the river. And that's the way life is.